Welcome into the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, Episode 1, The Gathering. Today we talk about what makes up a good gathering of players in a game, and different ways to approach one of the most critical pieces in executing a good game. If you'd like to leave us feedback, contact us, or even participate by adding your thoughts to the subject, send us an email at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that's levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome into the Leveling Up Your Gaming podcast. My name is Aaron. Across from me is my wonderful brother from another mother, Jared.
My brother from damn right.
I've known this guy for 20 years, as you probably heard. Today we're going to be talking about the gathering.
Bringing people together.
Bringing people together in your story and how to do that and different ways to do it and just kind of go along there. So Jared, what kind of gatherings do we normally
So one of the things is to definitely look at what kind of story are you looking to tell? Are you looking to tell a long, protracted campaign, or are you looking at a brief, short story, or what we've been doing lately, the shared writing storytelling experience, which we've been going around telling the same campaign with the same characters, but rotating storytellers. So you kind of have to identify what you are going for first. And sometimes you may not know. Sometimes it starts off as that one shot and turns into just that campaign that's lasted you 2 years. And you're like, oh, wow.
That's always the best one, those little surprise games there. You never know how that's going to work out, because a one shot could easily balloon, just as fast as it started. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. So for the one shot, definitely one of the first things that you want to look at, and everything we do talk about comes from a place of experience. It's because we've done it well, we've done it poorly.
Oh, we've done it so poorly.
Oh God, we've done it. Just take the football and go in the wrong way down the field.
No, the end zone's the other way.
Other way.
Those videos that you see a kid, trying to do layups into the into the wrong net, and then their team tackles them and takes the ball away. Yeah, that's us. Sometimes We've been there.
I've unfortunately been the one shooting into the wrong net more often than not. So for those one-shot campaigns, it's definitely crucial to have a pre-game discussion. And as we have advanced over the years, I think we've started to fall more into pre-game discussions about how characters know each other. Mm-hmm. Do they know each other? How are we going to get them together? And it's become a cooperative effort.
Well, yeah, a lot of people refer to that as the session zero, kind of that character creation point there. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, hey, let's get the guys together and just create a character tonight. Because people, when they tend to get there, just want a game. So, you can probably put together a character if you're not going to pre-gen something in about an hour. A good, meaningful character, I should say.
Oh, yeah, an hour and a half.
So, at that point, though, that's where you'd want to have that discussion. If you're going to do pre-gens, it's a little bit easier. You could do you're all in a tavern somewhere, kind of thing.
That one kills me, though.
For a one-shot with the mentality, that kind of works. What you do, though, is... you ran that one shot where we were playing Marines. We were at a base. We were fighting werewolves.
Oh God, yes.
So it's like make a Marine. You're on the base, and this is the setting. You kind of gave us a little bit of hints about what it's going to be about.
It did. It's funny because I used to be very anti session zero. Mm-hmm. I thought there was nothing more artificial. I was like, how dare you get a group together that know each other? Mm-hmm. You're going to come up with that backstory? How artificial and just demeaning.
You're never going to make it in Hollywood with that
end. Oh, you'll never make it. You'll never work in this town again. And now that we've started doing that, just about a year or a year and a half ago, mm-hmm. Look what's it's as me as a storyteller, I have seen an immense value in it.
It takes a lot of burden off the storyteller to have that session zero, because it lets the player say, hey, we all know each other because we worked in an elite mercenary force, or we all know each other because We all grew up in the same town together. We all know each other because, I mean, we kind of set the guidelines here in our current story, which was, you're investigators, and so my guideline to you guys was you all have to have worked together once before
in that investigation.
Yep. So tell me the case that you worked on.
Yep. And the blossoming was very apparent in that first night, and what you created that night was very unique because, then it was Ken and I saying, we want to be the owners of the firm. We're two former police officers, and we started up the firm. And then Brian adds in his character, and it's a character our listeners will hear about a lot. His name was Jim. Was just seemingly along for the ride, but became one of the most amazing characters I've ever had the opportunity.
He was amazing because of how disruptive he was.
Oh my god!
But yeah, we could talk about that more.
Oh yeah, we'll get into disruptive players and not disruptive players, disruptive characters, but disruptive characters that know their limits.
We'll probably also get into disruptive players too, because we've had our fair share. I mean, we've been fortunate enough to have our group be a 3-man weave for a real long time.
Oh yeah.
And so it makes things really, really easy in terms of kind of organically getting things to work along. So I mean, that's nice. The session 0 kind of helps out in terms of setting up the expectations and how the characters know each other. It takes a lot off the storyteller's plate. It's always a good way to do it. You as a storyteller should approve that this is an acceptable way for the characters to meet each other.
Absolutely. And not only should you approve it, you should endorse it. Even prop those players up who say, we want to come in as longtime friends. Because what that sometimes does is that gives you an opportunity as a storyteller to create a truly emotional moment. That's been one of my things that I've been fighting for some time now, is how to create that emotional moment. Because when you have 2 players that are friends, they have been friends for years, and they're playing friends who've been friends for years, what happens when one of those friends comes under threat? And I mean, they are under threat. It is going to elicit in the player, hopefully, and in the character, it should, that this is no holds barred territory. This is, I'm coming for my friend who's been my friend for years. For example, if you and I were playing, brothers, dude, if anyone kidnapped your character, I'd be coming at them with everything the kitchen sink has to offer. It's when Jared's character would go from the Happy Kender to the Punisher, and that's just a frightening image right there.
That's exactly true. I mean, the nice thing about it, and I'm not just saying just use a session 0 for every campaign. I mean, you might want to. There's different ways that you can do it. We'll kind of go into a couple more of them here. But it also works well for a one shot. Like, I've given you pre-gen characters. Yep. You tell me how they know each other, because then when I say you're all sitting in a tavern together, you already have this kind of. You don't have to think about like, well, why do I even want to work with this guy, or why do I have to do that? Like, you as an adventurer, you as a player don't have to try to think of like your motivation for it. You could just kind of be like shooting from the hip, like you get to make up the bond as you go, kind of. And so like you can naturally evolve that. You don't have to think very much about how that bond kind of got formed. But that's kind of why the gathering is important, though, is kind of to form that bond and that cohesion within the group. That's exactly what you're trying to do there, and that's why you can do that through a session 0.
And it is. I mean, that creating that bond and creating that striking moment. The best analogy I can do is this is when the hammer hits the anvil, and you got that sword in there and you're forging that. That's that first strike. It's that clang, and the sparks go flying everywhere, and you've really formed something amazing. And so with one shots, the session 0 is great. Sometimes you don't have that opportunity. Sometimes that's just not going to be available, whether or not that's due to scheduling commitments, interruptions. You have players that maybe you're getting together at a comic book shop, and all these players are going to be new. You've
running a con game.
Con game. Oh, God. The responsibilities in that one.
But you, I mean, you're exactly right. Like, you don't always have the time for a session zero. When I say a session zero, again, it could be like 5 minutes before the game. Like, hey,
Absolutely.
just hash this thing out real quick, so I don't have to do it for you. And this way, when I put you in the situation, it sort of makes sense that you're all together. Because I could say simply, and we did this a lot when we were younger. You wake up in a room, or you've all been gathered here because you're elite. Elite mercenaries, or you're the best of the best, and you were like, I'm a rank 1 Clyath.
And for those of you who don't know Werewolf, or rank 1 Clyath is you're a private in the military.
This would be equivalent to you rolling a brand new character in D&D, level 1, and the king being like, stop this army. You're a war hero, aren't you?
You're a war hero. Sir, I am not.
You're like, I just got here yesterday. Like,
the kobold yesterday almost killed me. Level 1 D&D characters, when the kobold
you can't go up and get the Death Knight. Are you kidding me?
That's the Council of 7 Death Knights. We would like you to go handle that situation.
Good luck. Have fun.
Enjoy. So that's the other thing at a gathering. Is the gathering proportional to your character's level? And that was something that I pondered on specifically for this podcast, is proportions. Does the situation warrant the characters? And do the characters, are they up to the task? Now, that's not to say that you're not creating the campaign, which is the hero's journey. But if you look at every large-scale motion picture, if you look at the book, it's the hero's journey is a little... It starts off small. Frodo's just going to go throw a ring. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gandalf knows that in the end he will be here, but Gandalf's a foreseeing prophetic wizard. Mm-hmm. He knows what's inside Frodo.
Yes.
Frodo don't know. He just thinks he's got to go... Look at him at the beginning of Lord of the Rings. They're happily running through a cornfield. Little do they know what they are going into.
Before you know it, there's going to be a big-ass spider. I mean, there's going
to be the mountains of Mordor and life and death situations and whatnot. But in your gathering, make sure that it's proportional to your characters. Make sure that you don't have that king. And this comes from my own flawed mistakes and a lot of early writing. Mm-hmm. Was my games... Oh, well, we need you... A lot of our games originally, as you remember, started off mercenaries.
And boy,
easy.
Yeah, I mean,
gathering.
Easy gathering. Hey, you're all together. They brought you all together. You're all mercenaries. Elite mercenaries. And we're going to pay you an absorbent amount of money. Because like back then, we didn't understand the concept of money. Nor how much it costs to whack someone. So, in the real world, I mean,
in the real world, it's don't ask me how I know this. It's like, you can get a hitman for like 20 G's. Don't ask how I know that. Don't.
Google could tell you anything.
Google's amazing, but it wasn't Google. What? They'd be paying millions of dollars to wax a cartel member. And we had these level 1 characters that I was like, these guys are bound to fail. Like,
they're pretty much designed to fail.
And it's only through luck or my player's skill that they're going to succeed in this. I didn't make sure that it was proportional. I didn't appropriately walk them into the waters of the deep.
Also, a lot of the times we just never finish the game. I mean, they're all one-shots.
Oh, yeah, essentially.
Essentially, just week after week, it's like new flavor of the month, new guy who's going to do this. I don't think we ever had a campaign until we actually got into the D10 system with White Wolf. So,
and I think White Wolf really laid the foundation for that with adding the word chronicle.
That's true, yeah. And I think, as you're looking into it and trying to decide, how you want to open up the games, in the Chronicles, we kind of just carried over everything that we had learned in Palladium as young kids, and we were still doing that there in White Wolf, where it was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring together all these different, skill sets that maybe fit together. Not really, but, I'm just going to bring them all together, and we're going to say, you were brought here from far and wide to do this, and as level 1 characters, rank 1 characters, and it was just like it made sense in that initial step, But then later on, I think we kept doing that opening, and it
Mhm.
was just kind of, it got stale, and you're like, wait, why does this make any sense? Especially as you started asking us as the GM to start making more in-depth backstories and like
Yes.
motivations for the characters as
Yeah,
well.
motivations, asking your players for motivations is a huge thing that can really bring a gathering together.
Mhm.
If you got 4 people that are motivated by vengeance,
They better all be vengeful against the same thing.
they better be vengeful against the same thing, or you create a story that they meet together at, I don't know, anger management
Mhm.
because they have all flipped out on someone on the street in their vengeful rage, and it's like strangers on a train. We're gonna kill each other's vengeful people that we've vowed vengeance against. All storytellers are welcome to use strangers on the train. Please, steal everything that I say. I beg you.
But
I come up with ideas in the shower and on the toilet. And I just hope to God somewhere out there someone's like, I heard about this on a podcast. Let's use it. And I'm like, yes, thank you.
Yeah, feel free to write in with that thing there. I'll make sure we get an email address up, and you can tell us about your experience.
Yes, we'll get an email together, and you can be like, Jared, I live in Indiana. I have used your game, and I'll be like, I broke state lines. I broke those lines. But no, it's so other things with gatherings. So proportionality, huge. Session zeros, very helpful. Other things are your players in bringing them together? Sorry, not the players, the characters. Are they gonna mesh? Are they gonna work?
Yeah, I mean, we'll dive more into the Robin's Law about players versus characters. I'm talking about characters, assuming that they're the players that you play with play in character.
Mhm.
Are those characters going to mesh?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Are the characters going to work well as a team? For example, I've created this brilliant game. Everyone wants to play the scientist. Well, this game is about infiltrating the mafia as FBI agents, so not everyone can play the scientist.
It also doesn't make sense. I mean, you should
Exactly.
you as a GM should be okay to place some constraints upon the characters.
Yes.
Don't be like, I understand this is one of the big appeals to role playing or tabletop gaming in general is that, oh, well, it's tabletop gaming. You can just do whatever the heck you want to do. Well, yes, you can, as long as we agree upon the constraints before we start.
Absolutely. And that's a huge part, because for me, man, that was hard, because I always I'm inhibiting my players' freedom. And then we'd have 3 werewolves and a wereshark.
Yeah, that wereshark's it's like bringing a strong man to a regular bar and doing an arm and doing an arm wrestling competition. He's breaking tables and just throwing people through them, and you're like, if I make anything stronger to fight this guy, everyone's going through the table but him.
But yeah, oh god. And it's crucial to make sure that your characters match. Fantasy has a very easy, I feel an easier time with that because of the classes, especially in Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons, you can kind of get away. I think most of the people understand that they're making adventurers. They're supposed to be making a character that has a sense of adventure innate within him. And a lot of groups probably aren't as difficult as we are. I mean, I'm not gonna turn our nose against, but we're kind of bad with our gatherings. This is part of the reason why we really had to step up our game on it, because when you started asking us to write down character motivation, I'm like, I would work with Brian because I know Brian. Brian's a great friend of mine, and I would work with Ken because I know Ken and he's a great friend of mine. But man, I would never work with this character because that's not in my character's nature. Now, you might be able to get away with that because your players just might be like, oh yeah, I'm just look past all the flaws of that character character brings to the table. And if that's the case, then your gatherings are a lot easier and a lot they're going to be easier in a sense. But at the same time, if you want to try to bring the game to your next level, you want to try to bring that gathering to the next level. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here is, say, hey, try to think about, would your character actually work with that person? Try to make a gathering that fits that situation.
So, and that kind of comes to what's the player's responsibility in the gathering. There has to kind of be that social contract.
Yes.
That, we're going to work together and we're going to do this thing. We're going to at least have that opportunity to go further. One of the other things with gatherings is you have to think of the opening, and I do a lot of movie references, like the opening of a movie. That was good right there.
Wow, deep.
So deep. How are you drawing the players in on your gathering? Mm-hmm. What's the buy-in? Mm-hmm. How are you... Because I found that many of my gathering sessions, my session ones in the past, is like watching paint dry. Mm-hmm. There's exposition, and there's a whole lot of setup, and there wasn't a whole lot of action. And what I was thinking about was don't be afraid to start off sometimes in a different point in time. I have found that the rule of a little bit of combat or a little bit of action, a tense moment in every session is crucial and key.
Action galvanizes a group pretty fast.
Very fast. We started off one game. It was after a very serious campaign. We had just finished it. We needed a blow-off game where we could just wreak havoc, do damage, have fun, and be crazy. Mm-hmm. And I literally started off in a bar in Tijuana where the players got into a gunfight that literally ended up with someone running in with a squad automatic weapon or a saw. It's a light machine gun, and just blowing the bar to smithereens trying to get these characters. And then I stopped right as the point, right when the action is the highest, stop, go to the beginning now. Mm-hmm. Because we've had a little bit of action. I've got my players hooked. I've grabbed them. Now we're going to start off with the exposition.
And that allowed you to kind of do this thing where you brought us all together, because we sort of had two gatherings. We were working together, and then you brought us together and said you're working together. Like somebody just told us, hey, you're working together. So that worked in that sense, because we sort of had the reason why combat works really well as a gathering, or that high tense situation works well as a gathering, is because when you put all the characters in that situation, even if the characters don't know each other, they feel like they know each other because they're working together in unison, lockstep, trying to fight off this thing. Like, it's everyone against you guys. So Guess what? You're all friends.
You're all friends. Ain't no haters in a foxhole.
Pretty much.
So that's one thing that I welcome storytellers to do is use time. Mm-hmm. Use the cut scene. Use the action. Another thing that I will always look at storytellers to do in regards to gathering, there's always a lot of hiring. Dungeons and Dragons, the local lord hires. Mm-hmm. Sci-fi, you're hired by some security force. Mm-hmm. Modern, you're hired by a local corporation. Always look into who is doing the hiring, why they are doing the hiring, and will that person become someone to the players? Mm-hmm. Is it just a way to get them together? If you're going to use the hiring aspect, you have to understand that the boss is their coming together. Mm-hmm. You have to develop that out. Mm-hmm. So it's not a word of caution, but a word of advice to really make sure that boss, that person who's bringing them all together, you know where he starts, you know where he ends. You know, if you're walking them into the sea, if we're doing a Frodo, is he only going to last to the end of the first movie? Or is he going to be through all three? And if he is, you have to think of him as part of the group, as that gathering. Your NPCs are part of that gathering, especially your critical ones that you want to be going throughout the session. If he's only going to be around I brought them for this gathering. They hired the players, and then the players, I hired them to clean out this tomb. Then they went down and found a dragon, and it's the last dragon alive in the land. And he needs And he's a good dragon.
Yeah.
And he needs their help. Okay, the boss was inconsequential. He just got him to the 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't need to flesh that guy out as much because they're probably not going to work for him after they're done with the 2.
Yeah, I mean, you've got plenty of options that you can do with that guy. Maybe he comes back later. He's a villain. I don't know. Yeah.
But I have made hiring NPCs that brought the group together that nobody liked. And LinkedIn today tells you people leave jobs because they don't like managers.
Yeah.
Now your characters are looking to escape that. How are you gonna work with that when you got this hiring guy?
You don't want the guy who hired you to set the wrong tone for the game. Because if your game's supposed to be about a story of triumphant heroes and your character's doing everything in their power to get away from the guy who's trying to turn them into heroes, like
there you go.
Yeah, then you're in trouble.
It's the antithesis of your goal.
And it's really hard once that footing goes wrong at the beginning to bring it back and put your characters back on the right track.
Oh God, yeah.
So I mean, like, in a way, you're the first guy that they meet. If an NPC is going to bring your characters together, they better be like. I mean, they don't have to be officer friendly here, but I mean, I'm saying that they,
McGruff the crime dog.
They've got to. All right, you guys are going to take a
bite out of crime.
Take a bite out of crime. No, they don't have to be like the nicest guys in the world, but I'm just saying you should have somebody who's very amenable to the characters, where the characters don't feel like they're just being like shoehorned into something.
Yep, the 3 rules of a good guide to go by if you're creating a manager is the 3 rules. Firm, fair, and consistent. In managerials, that's also how you can create a managerial NPC. Mm-hmm. Are they firm? Are they fair? Are they consistent? And generally, managers that do that are liked.
Which is good. And then you can make the guy more of a jerk later on because characters have formed a bond and a relationship with them.
And then you can, and once they're part of Adventure Inc., they don't need him for the buy-in. They'll work for a different manager.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to touch on, because the last point for this one, because I know this is a huge discussion. Gatherings, we could probably talk about for days.
Oh yeah, we could talk about it for days, and we'll probably come back to them at some point.
Absolutely.
To be honest with you,
is environment. Environment more often than not can bring people together. Political. So it's the conflict with the outside world. Are there political things that are going on inside your fantasy realms nation that they all come together at a protest? It's looking for the opportunity to bring them together in a holistic, natural environment. And it can be created during the session 0. It can be created right then. You place the players, you create what you like. You're at this protest because this king is evil. He likes beheading everybody. And you're at this protest, and that's when they come on in. Look at environmental factors that can bring the characters closer together. Is there rebellion that they're caught up in? I mean, that's precisely what Star Wars is based off of. Young Luke is caught up in a political struggle between the Rebel Alliance and the Empire. Mm-hmm. He's caught up in that. What environmental factors? This can also include natural disasters. Mm-hmm. There is a flood. You guys were all at a hotel. Everyone evacuated. I don't know why you guys didn't. You decided to have a hurricane party.
We're staunch believers that staying in the hotel was the best choice.
Best choice. Does that micro event create the galvanization? Does it bring the characters together? Does it forge them? A long ago prophecy. The other thing that I wanted to touch on, and I guess the last, because I did say that one was the last.
Well, you get one more. I'll give you one more. Just this one time.
Just this one time. Is don't be afraid to write out your narrations. In your openings, writing it out can create that clear tone, can set that tone, and bring those characters together in a clear way. Make sure that you have that understanding. Write these things down.
I think what you're meaning to say is you write it down as though like best laid plans of mice and men. This is how it would go. But obviously it might not go this way. But this is what it might look like.
Yes, picturize. Yes. Or picturize. Visualize through the written word. However you visualize. Yeah. If you like Post-it notes on a wall.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah, I mean, do a little bit of prep to make sure that this gathering is going to go off without a hitch.
prep
Because,
is
again,
huge.
as Jared has mentioned several times before, the reason why you really want to do this is the galvanization of your group. Okay? You have a good gathering, your game is probably going to go off on a good foot, and it's going to pick up steam quick. Okay? If you have a bad gathering and people are jerking around and having, just wisecracking and, we hit a whale.
Oh, God. We will discuss that. Oh.
Nothing tanks a game faster than a lack of involvement in your story. So you're gathering. So you only get a couple of places within your game where you really get to set up really strong scenes, and your gathering is one of those.
That is that spark moment, that key moment to take advantage of.
So, I mean, it's just like a book, that hook that gets you, like the movie, the hook that gets you. You can tell a bad movie from a good movie. That's going to make it. Your characters are going to be locked in step. Like they're going to want to find the tomb of Khalfu or
Khalfu?
Huh?
Khalfu?
I just said some syllables together.
I love your made-up names. Those are fantastic. Khalfu. I mean, like, already right there, I've got a story about an Egyptian pharaoh. See, steal that because I needed to cross state lines.
Yes. Tell us about it. We'll get you that email address. I'll put that in at the beginning of this podcast, the email address, so you know where to get us.
And if your gathering sometimes falls through, and sometimes it will, don't abandon your story yet. See how it goes. Let it progress. Try to recapture the moment.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Try to recapture the moment. One of the things that is going to be, if your gathering falls through and you really want to redo the gathering, to keep the game going, my suggestion is don't. Retconning is not a great idea.
You will never, ever hear us support retconning. I'm going to start a campaign, anti-retcon.
Yeah, don't retcon. Get on the hashtag no retcon.
Hashtag no retcon.
Okay, because you will never, now you've already put sour taste.
It's just full of regret and shame.
You've put sour taste in all of your players, and there's nothing that you have done at the beginning that cannot be undone through better storytelling. You will always find it easier to undo what you have done than to try and put everyone, say, forget all that stuff.
Yeah.
And start again.
Nope. The jury cannot forget. Sorry. But what you can do is pick your case back up and make a heck of a go for it with the evidence.
Get a much better shot with that.
Do not retcon. Hashtag no retcon.
Hashtag no retcon for life.
For life.
But anyways, do you have any more thoughts on the gathering?
No, I know our listeners probably have things to go to.
Maybe you're jotting down new ideas for your gathering right now.
I just finished one. Literally today, about 40 minutes before you came over, I finished one. I wrote out the whole narration.
Well, I'm very excited to experience that.
We can talk about it next time and get your thoughts, because your criticisms are, that's, I guess, shameless plug. Listen to your players. Listen to their constructive criticisms. Even if their criticism sometimes isn't constructive, sometimes you can gather insight. Fortunately for me, I have Aaron, who's a fantastic sounding board, who just, he gives me great constructive criticism. He tells me when I've fallen on my face, and he tells me when I've made the sunshine. You need that in your group. Find that in your group. Gather that in your group.
I'm happy to receive any criticisms you have. I'm just starting with our new kind of group storytelling thing, just try basically to learn from the things that you've kind of done in the past. I mean, I think you've got a pretty good understanding of how to put the characters together and make all that. Also, because we're kind of doing this collaborative thing, I don't have to make a gathering for you guys every time, because you guys already know each other, so it's already been done.
But so, what's kind of funny is because you were the one who started that. The session 0, I don't think I ever did a session 0 before we did the detective series.
There's something about it that I don't think that you just ever liked and ever wanted to really.
Like I said, I was very.
Yeah. You were very anti it. And don't get me wrong, like if you don't want to do a session 0, you can have killer openings and killer gatherings. Again, it's a lot of putting the players in a mindset that they are. You need to give your players the agency to feel like they made the group.
Yes. Oh God. Tricking them into doing that, huge.
So like oh well, because like again, that happens with a fight. A fight makes that very easy because the players then think like, oh, brother, we just fought in arms against these beasts, like but the other thing too is probably your best beginning in the game that I love dearly, which is Elders. That was one of our longest running Chronicles. I mean, fortunately, it was just two of us, so it was easier to galvanize the group because it wasn't very many of us. But the thing that I think that made that game so strong was you put us together. There was a little bit of like we were both playing werewolves. There's a little bit of like we looked at in each other's eyes. We knew that each other were werewolves. So we didn't have to do this whole like game of cat and mouse, like, are you a werewolf, are you not?
What's the secret handshake?
Yeah, what's the secret handshake? Do you know? Can you name the 5 sons of? But
do you know your gang lit?
But
do you know your litany?
But then at the end of that first night, which could have been a one shot in and of itself, the end of that first night, you were going to take us and you're going to put us before this big epic quest, and I, purely playing a power gamer at the time, was just like, you know what? No, I want to go over here instead so I can level up, because you put a constraint on us that we could only level up in game.
Yep.
And I said, and Brian's got his own quest, he's got his own backstory and all
Brian
this, and he's like, I'm not going to do that. And I remember he was playing like the Silver Fang, which is like a noble class. I'm playing a Bonar, which is like a bum basically.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just said, listen, you come with me, you do this for me, I will help you, like, hand in hand to get that. I will do whatever it takes to help you get to accomplish your birthright and get your item. And that was it. Like, the players formed that bond. Jared didn't have to. So like, if you can get the players to do it for you, that just makes the game that much easier. Or try to give the players that concept of agency to do it, because if they feel like they did it, boy, they're hooked. Okay, you can then have them do all sorts of crazy stuff, and they will go on and on and on and do it for you.
Follow you into hell and back. And you're right, because those bonds that are formed between players and player characters that are so natural are the strongest bonds. You can get the greatest moments out of them. You can get that emotion. Aim for that emotion, that togetherness. I mean, like, shoot, and everyone is going to think I'm a sissy. I still read the Elders epilogue that I wrote. Yeah, I've cried. I've been like, oh my God.
Well, that epilogue, I mean, that game spanned several years, and you brought it to a huge end, and we will touch on epilogues in a future episode.
Yes,
and
we will.
I will probably have you read the epilogue with the music, because I think, even though you as listeners probably won't understand everything that kind of went along with it, we can give you a little background into it, and it would just, you can see what the culmination of a game can become.
And we're going to talk about music. Yeah. Music is such a powerful engine.
But that's just a little bit on gatherings. Again, try to spice it up. Again, I'll put up the email address at the start of this podcast. Sorry, we didn't have it up when we started recording this, but I'll put it up there so maybe you can give us your feedback.
Editing, don't worry.
You can give us your feedback. Let us know, hey, what you like, what you think is good for gatherings. Sprinkle it in. We can talk about it in a future podcast.
Always exchange that information. Share.
So, anyways, take care, guys. Again, this is Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name's Aaron. That's Jared. Have a good night.
Have a great night.